All right, y'all, welcome. This is Crushing Limits Unleashed podcast. We have two very special guests. We got my boy Peter, IFBB Pro 212. Another one of my good friends, Coach Eric. Welcome to the show.
Hello. I don't have a cool, acronym title, but I'm a professional burrito eater.
Now, is that like how many burritos, or are we going by weight, or
So there's a real story behind that. It started as a joke, but when I met my wife, obviously before she became my wife, we started this never-ending journey of finding the world's greatest burrito. What a fun challenge to go on. So
yeah?
we've been everywhere. We've been down through different parts of Mexico, up in Canada, all across the United States, and the the top three places were in California. And so we got it down to the science where you got to judge by the quality of the meat. Is it tender? Is it dry? Does the meat have any flavor? And what are your sauces like? Because tortilla and cheese, anyone just kind of has tortilla and cheese. But if your only option is pico de gallo, you're not even in the top 10. Get out of here with that. So we got to have choices. So
Did
that's
you
that's
try
how it
did you
started.
try
And
any
it's
in Chicago?
my plan is to be out there for the Chicago Pro, and I'll start running some tests over there.
All right. Well, I'll hopefully be done dieting right after the show, so maybe I'll grab a burrito.
All right. Yeah, we'll split a burrito and we'll call it a day. Yeah.
You guys will have to meet up. We actually had burritos last night.
Yeah,
They're
Nice.
delicious.
Yeah,
we tried a new spot just down the road. It was pretty good.
pretty
Pretty
good.
good.
Yeah, pretty. I was pretty impressed. So it's like yourself. There has to be, certain qualities that make it a good burrito.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna dive in today. Eric, I want to touch briefly on kind of your story of how you got into this, how you got into coaching, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the client stuff. What are some green flags when it comes to onboarding a new client? What are some red flags that you guys see where it's just like, hey, this might not be a good fit?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the viewers, how did you get started into this crazy world of bodybuilding?
The coaching thing totally happened by I don't even know if you'd call it a mistake, but it was never on my radar to do. When I got into bodybuilding, just like yourself, back in the day, there was no social media, there wasn't YouTube. You just had to be good. You didn't have to be likable. So having a personality wasn't even, something that came across your mind. Just show up and win. So I got into bodybuilding really early on. I could tell you the exact moment of when that light bulb hit me, and I was like, that's that right there. That's what I'm going to do. I was at a Borders bookstore. I was like 12, and I could tell you exactly what this guy was wearing and everything. That's how much of an impact that this guy had on me. The cashier there, and I'm sure probably in today's standards, he just had like a CrossFit build. But as a child, you're like, that guy was massive. Green V-neck, bulging biceps. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. That's me in the future. And so I chased that. I turned 14. My parents got me a gym membership, and my mother took me to the gym every single day, 7 days a week until I got my own driver's license. And then I took myself every day. And so I always wanted to be just that cream of the crop. I got really blessed that the gym that I started going to was already filled with pro bodybuilders, pro strongmen. Uh, there was, you name some kind of elite athlete, they went to that gym. It was the flagship gym in San Ramon, California, which is the headquarters where 24 Hours is based out of. So all the big wigs, all the financial people, everyone went there. So my my starting point was at this crazy elite level. And then when I moved out from there, then you saw that, oh, that's not normal. And said, okay, well, how do I keep that going now that I'm not in that environment? And so the quest for knowledge started there. And then people say, hey, I got a question. And so then the coaching aspect of it started really early. I prepped my first person when I was 19. And so someone called, hey, my friend, he's got questions. I said, sure, give him my number. Prep this guy. I was like, oh, that was really cool. I don't think that was that hard. I could probably do that again. A couple years later, helped someone else out, and it just kind of spiraled from there. Now, I already had other business endeavors. I already was self-employed. I owned a supplement company. I already did all these other things. And how I got into the coaching for what it is that you see that it's now, I got kicked out of a gym for helping two people for free. And so it was kind of one of those, it was a poop ordeal for sure. I thought it was ridiculous, but just not my gym. Let it ride. So I went back and forth between these two gyms, and the one gym that said get out of here called the other gym, tried to have me banned. They said, this guy, we banned him. If you want us to co-promote any of these things with you, you'll ban him too. Well, at the time, that gym had five owners. Four of the five owners called me directly and said, hey, these people called. They want us to ban you. We told them to go take a hike in a much more derogatory way than that and said, you always have a place here. If you ever need anything, we're family. So I took that as a huge thing. These people put a lot of faith in me that didn't really know me. So to spite the other people, I got into coaching. I coached, I think it was 18 people that year. Most of them were in powerlifting. Two people took all time, I'm sorry, one has an all time world record, the other one has a world record, and all the others have national records. And then it just went crazy from there. That's a condensed version of how that all started.
Man, that's incredible. I love to hear it. I got a lot of questions on that.
Oh yeah.
Let me hear about those records first,
So
if you can remember them.
I can because the all-time world record still stands. And it's
Gee.
it's one of my most proud moments just because it wasn't a normal like, oh, hey, I want to be strong. Give me a protocol. That I'm sure we all get those phone calls. What's the special protocol, bro? This guy pulls me over and he says, hey, so and so says that you know your stuff. Well, I hope that's true, but how can I help? And this guy came to me with completely gray skin. You could see that he had thin hair. You could visibly see that he was not healthy.
Mhm.
And so he says, this is what I'm doing. This is my plan. And I've been chasing this record for 15 years. I said, okay, well, let's take a look at some stuff. Let me have full control over everything. Let me take full control of your diet. Let me take full control of the chemical side. And I will get you within 2 pounds of your weight limit so you don't have to do anything crazy with a water pool because I don't want to play with the hydration aspect and trying to reload and stuff like that when you're just trying to be strong. So this gentleman, Gary Slater, has the all-time world record in Masters 181 weight class for his squat. 677 pounds. Gary's 5'5" on a good day. Just a freak. Just a freak. And I remember someone sent me the video in real time as it happened because I wasn't there at the meet. And I was like, oh, this is a big deal. This is really cool. And then that got me in front of some other people. And then I helped a lady named Erica Hipwell. She took the world record in deadlift. I cannot remember her weight class though. I'm pretty sure it was 165 and she pulled low to mid fours. Um, so with, a couple cool things here and there.
Yeah, that's outstanding, man.
Yeah.
I remember, like yourself, I coached my first client at 18 for a show. Now I want to ask you, like, how did you feel? Because I know although I was thrilled that anyone would hire me, I was nervous. Like, can I do this? Like, can I get her to the finish line? So tell us a little bit about that. How did you feel and how did everything go?
So there's two parts to the story. So
Yeah,
I gave you the cliff notes of it, but what I left out is the first 8 years that I helped people, I did it completely for free. So I
sure.
did it for free because I didn't think that I possessed enough knowledge, enough value to be worth someone giving me money. You know, coming up, you only had a handful of big name coaches, and I didn't possess that kind of knowledge. I didn't have that experience. I didn't know the difference between potassium sparing and loop diuretics. Why would anyone pay me? Fast forward modern day times, these people don't even know how to spell potassium. So, so this guy Robert contacts me. We have a mutual friend, Robert, who has unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose, completely unrelated. But Robert was about 51, 52. And so there used to be this old school gym in Hayward. It started it branched out between Hayward and Oakland. Started in Hayward, went to Oakland, called Medina's. And so all the Bay Area bodybuilders, like real hardcore bodybuilders, came out of that gym. Collie Muscle used to train out of that gym when he got out of jail. A lot of big name people out of the Bay Area came from that particular location. And so I met this guy, and he was 155 pounds, soggy, not fat, but definitely not lean. And so I said, let's kind of play with some things. Just give me control. This is what my recommendations are. And he goes, you're the master. Let's see what you got. And I thought that was such a fascinating thing that someone was willing to put that much trust in me. And so I didn't want to let him down. So it was a personal, I need to have this victory for him, not for me. And so 4 days before that show, he was 184 pounds without an ounce of fat or water on him. It was one of the craziest transformations I've ever seen, still to this day, after doing this for 16 years professionally. And that showing of what it could do, it's like it never turned into, oh, I can turn this into a money maker. It was like, look what the body can do. That's fascinating. What else can we do? So it wasn't like I'm nervous because I'm not going to be able to deliver or something like that. I knew I could do it, but I was just more fascinated with, I did that knowing that I'm so young, and with what at the time, what I thought was a small amount of knowledge, how much better can I get at this? So for me, it was more of that first domino ticked over of, okay, I did something cool. How much better can I get at this? And then it just went crazy.
So, so you said you did this for free for 8 years, and
Mhm.
I started out that way too, not for 8 years, but I too, I felt bad charging people at first because I didn't have a resume, I didn't have other clients to show off. I wasn't taking a ton of clients, so it was like I enjoy doing this. Let me just do this; it'll be fun. I can, show the knowledge that I have and actually help someone, and that's why I wanted to do it, is I wanted to help someone. And I always remember John Meadows talking about, doing these things for free and helping people, and that's how you build a following.
Yeah.
Um, Now, what did that transition look like when you decided, okay, I've been doing this for free for so long. Now's the time to charge. What do I charge?
Just
Like,
like,
what did that transition look like where you said, okay, I need to turn this into a business and start charging?
Oh, it was 100% the ugly duckling phase. You had no clue, what do you charge for something like that?
Yeah.
Because I never did a whole lot of in-person work,
Mhm.
just because I always had other things going on, and I bounced around from gyms that were, my home base was in Burlingame, which is right south of San Francisco. And then sometimes I'd be down near San Jose, it's an hour and a half drive south. Or sometimes I'd be in Vacaville at Old School Iron, which is the gym that supported me during that weird, I got kicked out of the other gym for training people for free. So I was always bouncing around, and I still like to do that. I still like to gym hop, but I didn't have a home base to be like, oh, I'm a personal trainer. I just bounced around and helped people. So I, not knowing what to charge people, was like, well, I started at $50 a month because who knows who I am. People in Northern California knew who I was, but that was it. And then people were like, you're not charging enough. And then I had that imposter syndrome really, really
Yeah.
bad. I'm like, I've got world record athletes, I've helped, this pro bodybuilder, I've helped that guy over there. Maybe give me $100 a month. Is that too much? And I would be so concerned to ask people that.
Yeah.
Like, and then I'd look at my bills. I'm like, oh, I have bills. I'm not making any money. So let's see, what are we at? 2025 now. So about 2016 is when we went full bore, and we're like, okay, we're going to turn this into a business. And so I've known some very, very financially successful coaches, and I asked them, what was the turning point? And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them said that they hired business coaches and they had business audits. And I said, all right, I'll go down that road. Let's see what it entails. So I picked everybody's brain, business consultants from every kind of field too, people that didn't even know what it is that I did. And that was a really interesting eye opener, because when you look at what the value is that you're providing, depending on your niche of the field, you can really scale that price. And
Yeah.
when I say that, the greatest learning tool that anyone gave me was own your intellect, meaning that if I put five personal trainers in front of the client and say, tell me about yourself, and everyone's going to say, you should hire me because I care. I value you. I want your dollar to go somewhere. Well, you got five people giving you the exact same thing about how much they care in some sob story. So the consumer is always going to pick the cheapest person because if they're all going to offer the same thing, why would they pay more? So if you can own your intellect that you're providing something that's exclusive to you that no one else can get. So if you want that, you have to hire that person. And then at that point, then you can raise your price up relatively astronomical.
Yeah. Do you ever think about your target audience in terms of who you can coach? For example, and I see this with a lot of trainers where, there might be an 18-year-old kid that has a lot of potential and wants to work with you, but he's living at home, he can't afford it, he's paying for college, whatever it might be. Whereas you have a 40-year-old business professional that has the disposable income to hire you, but, doesn't really want to get on stage, doesn't have a whole lot of potential, isn't going to be as committed. Do you ever find yourself kind of trying to focus on what audience you want to go after with your coaching?
Early on, I had to kind of pick and choose, um, which way are we going to go? Are we going to be just a contest prep coach? Are we going to deal with the lifestyle? And when you're looking at it from a money standpoint, the lifestyle aspect of it is always going to make way more money.
Yeah.
And so I would get some of those, you with a young kid, be like, hey, I saw you work with so and so. I want to do it too. But hey, I'm a starving college kid. I could probably only pay you like $20 a month. And early on, I would still take those because, hey, $20, $20. And then as the coaching grew and the specialty stuff of what I do also grew, it basically got me out of that realm of even of a possibility. People for what you're asking, they don't call me anymore. So a little bit into the coaching journey, I started, and this is where my specialties really started to come in. Like, I enjoy dealing with the super freaks. I love dealing with the gigantic bodybuilders, but a majority of what I do is not that. So when I was younger, my grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's, and this is years ago, way before they knew anything about it. And then my grandmother and a lot of the females on that side of the family are diabetic. And so I started going down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out what causes these things and how can you deal with it? Can it be fixed? What kind of prevention can you do? So a lot of the stuff that I do now is diabetic related work, and I deal with a lot of people that have autoimmune related issues. I have a lady right now that has an incurable autoimmune disease that affects her on a neurological level. And so that's a lot of the specialty work stuff that I do now. So not not to pat my own back too much, but the kind of stuff that I do now is a very it's up there, and it's up there price point wise too. So the people that reach out to me already have the expectation that they're going to pay an arm and a leg, but they're going to
Yeah.
get something pretty special with it.
Yeah. You're solving harder problems that less people can solve, so you can charge more.
Right.
Great.
And that's good, man. I mean, you deserve to be paid, for what you're worth, especially for, how many years of knowledge, like we've all seen it too, where, you have a potential client, a prospect, and you can usually tell the ones that are shopping around, and like Eric, we haven't really discussed our pricing with you and everything, but like, Peter knows, and I'm like, we're pretty cheap, especially for what we actually provide. Like it's pretty absurd, and like yourself, we give people all the time where it's just like you guys are charging like way, way, way below what I imagined,
Mhm.
but it's like it's a little different, like with our approach, we are trying to keep it affordable and kind of get a wider reach. Whereas like, for you, it is absolutely like a specialty. This is exclusive.
Yeah, and when you look at it from a business standpoint, there's so many different ways to, expand what it is that you do. Or, are you a big team? Would you hire on another sub coach? Are you making it to where you have these pre-built programs and then you're doing, weight loss transformation things? Because then when you scale up in a situation like that and everything's completely automated, or, as automated as it can be with maybe minuscule tweaks, you can go from be like, oh man, I'm really swamped with dealing with 20 people to where you can easily handle 500 people a month and not even bat an eye at it. So it's just kind of, you know, how hands-on are you? How much love are you giving each individual person? But then how much does that take out of your day? So like I've got a buddy, I think you probably know who I'm talking about. He's a bikini coach and he coaches up there at the Olympia level. He's got great girls, and he told me, he was like, "Oh man, I'm so swamped. It takes me 3 hours to onboard a new athlete." It's like that can't be. What are you doing? Give me a rundown of what you got going on. And he tells me like that doesn't work, man. You are working yourself to the ground for nothing. I have done all the prep work ahead of time. It takes me less than 3 minutes to onboard a new athlete.
Wow.
Done. So it's just one of those things. If just like with bodybuilding, do the prep work and everything else will follow.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, kind of diving in a little bit more too on one of our topics for today. What are some things like we'll call them green flags? What are the green flags that both of you guys see when it comes to onboarding where you're like, obviously, time will tell, but just some of those signs or things they tell you or things they do as you're getting information where you're like, you know what? This is going to be a fantastic client.
Sure. Peter, you want to take it off?
Yeah. Yeah. I think from the very first point of contact, I'm just looking to see how they conduct themselves. You get that first email, and you start corresponding and you say, hey, reach out, fill out my new client form just so I get to see what your goal is and kind of where you're at. How long does it take them to fill that out? What kind of detail do they put into that? Do they, take shortcuts and give one word answers and only want to talk about pricing? Do they blow you off for 2 weeks and then come back and say, oh, let's start at the end of the month? That's a better time for me. You kind of start to get a gauge of how serious they are and how they're going to conduct themselves on a weekly basis when it's not on you to make them check in. Are they going to be on time? Are they going to take this seriously? So I think up front, you can kind of start to see a lot of those signs of how's this person going to be to work with, and I'm paying attention from day one. So that's one thing that I look out for.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that, man. The last one really just kills me. Like, and you guys probably know too, it probably is literally one
Yeah.
out of 100 people. We got a lot of inquiries like November-ish,
Hmm.
and they all say, what do you guys know? I'll start to January 2nd, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys know you're not starting.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just delete the email because you're not starting.
Yeah.
And like, that whole slew of people we got in November, how many started? Zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
I had one guy reach out to me, and what's funny is he's actually a coach and has a big team, and he wanted me to coach him.
Hmm.
And we went through that just cycle of we had an hour-long phone call and he wanted to pick my brain. And then he took 2 weeks to fill out the new client form. And then it was all about, oh, I got a lot of clients right now. I want to wait until like the start of the month, and I'll have a lot more time and I really want to make the most of this. And then it was like, you know what? I have some trips planned and I want to wait till I get back from those. And at that point, I'm writing it off. I'm like, because within a given year that we're going to work together, there's going to be trips, you're going to have clients, you're going to get sick, you're going to not feel like, you got to figure out how to make progress during those times. And
Hmm.
if you can't even start during those times, then,
Yeah.
this is going to be a difficult client.
Yeah, no, those are all completely spot on, and we all deal with it. And the the tire kickers, the price
Yeah.
people. Just tell me your price. What are your pricing
Yeah.
options? Man, those people kill me.
Yeah. Or like, hey, can I just pay like a week at a time? And you know, I'm not coaching full time. I have a career outside of this, so I can be a lot more picky because I don't carry a ton of people. So I myself, I look for, hey, we either do 6 months or a year up front. And if you're not willing to commit to 6 months and give me the real opportunity to make an impact here and you pay up front, then you know, I don't want to just have you test me out for a week and then decide, hey, I don't like the diet and move on.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of those too. And the only people that I ever give that, give me 3, 6, 12 months up front are the ones that, are the tire kickers. They'll respond to a message a couple days later, and I can see that I'm not top priority. And so if you want my help, by all means, I will give you my help. But there's going to be some stipulations for tire kickers. But the people that, they send an inquiry, I send them a message and they respond right away. I know that they're serious, that they're unhappy with what they have going on, or they have goals that need to be achieved, or for the health related ones, hey, my doctor says I'm going to die if I don't fix something. Those are the people. And probably 95% of the people that I have, we don't do bulk packages for. One, I like reoccurring revenue. It's easy for me to kind of gauge where we are money wise. But because of the other things that I do outside of just the nutrition coaching, we're able to have incredible client retention. Most of the people that we have on the team have been with me for a minimum of 2 to 3 years. I've got a handful of people that have been on the team nonstop for 5 and plus years. They just never leave. And so a lot of the stuff that we do is stress management, things to help you be successful outside of fitness related things. So one of the things that I have everyone do, and it's a recommendation. I'm not going to kick you off the team if you don't want to do it, but I like people to tell me something that they've learned every week. And it could be something super,
That's cool.
just stupid that doesn't mean anything. You tell me like, "Hey, I learned that lizards don't breathe when they walk, and that's why they do these little scurries and take a break." Great. That's that's great. It does nothing, but I'm glad that you went and learned something new.
I might steal that from you.
That's
Because
good.
because one thing I always think about when I'm helping someone is I've never wanted a relationship where they follow blindly. I'm like, I've done 25 years of my own research. That's how I got to where I'm at. I want you doing the same too. I understand I know more than you, and that's why you hired me. But during the week, I mean, listen to one podcast, research one thing, read one article, do something that is going to give you a better knowledge and so we can do this together. So I always expect that out of clients too. I want them to do their own research and come to me with questions and learn alongside me. I don't want them to just follow blindly.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Well, maybe you wouldn't be surprised. I'm surprised how many people don't care, that don't want to learn. They just say, put
Yeah,
it in a plan and I'll just do it.
yeah.
Like, why? Like, I get it. You hired a professional, sure. Like, you put the trust in them. I'm on board with that. But aren't you a little bit curious about why we're doing what we're doing?
Hmm.
And I'm amazed on how many people are just like, no, you said eat 5 ounces of red meat, so I ate 5 ounces of red meat. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like part of it is just like they don't have the time or don't want to invest the time,
Mhm.
which I can respect.
Yeah.
Like people are so busy these days. And like, I know from me personally, like we have a financial advisor and, this and that. We've hired mentors over the years. And like, honestly, I don't have the time. Just tell me what to do and I'll just get it done. I don't know, like what it takes to be a billionaire or I don't know what stocks do in this. Just tell me what to do. But I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, you guys are right too, where it's like, for people maybe with a little more free time, absolutely. It's worth it to, or at least ask you guys. You
Yeah.
guys, the coaches, hey, coach, real quick, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You know?
But even with just training, and I'm not asking for a huge commitment, but if you come to me and you tell me you want to be an IFBB pro, And you aren't going on YouTube and watching how Brett Wilkin and Martin Fitzwater train for just 15 minutes. Something's missing here. Like, I want you to see what that means. What does it mean when you say, I want to be an IFBB pro? You better take a look and do some research, or else you're going to be, very sorely disappointed when you find out you're not doing the same thing.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Man, I sure remember eating a whole lot of chicken and rice watching Ronnie Coleman
Yeah, we
squat.
all did it. I used to watch these guys and try to emulate and train like them and do the things that they did. And so when it comes to clients, like I understand there's a time commitment, and Chris, that's a good point. That's why they hire us. But just a little skin in the game, but give just a little bit of yourself to this as well.
I agree in a sense because I remember when I first started and I knew nothing when I
Hmm.
started. I started in my 30s. I didn't even know bodybuilding was a thing until someone said, "Hey, you kind of have the structure." And I was like, "What do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about." But when I started, I was excited, so I wanted to learn. And I think if someone is coming with a goal of turning IFBB pro, and then furthermore, a lot of people are always saying, "And I want to go to the Olympia." I'm gonna punch my ticket to the Olympia or something, and like they haven't even competed. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but then and we'll have fun with this sometimes. We'll do little bodybuilding trivias on the team, and they can't even like name
The reigning Mr. Olympia.
Yeah. Like
the
who
reigning
was
Mr.
Mr. Olympia
Olympia.
last year?
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I'm just like, but you want to be an IFBB pro. These are the people you are aspiring to. So
Yeah.
I do feel like there should be some knowledge of the sport you're trying to be a pro in.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
it's like saying, "Hey, I want to be a doctor and go to medical school," but you're in high school and college and you're not looking to see what medical school requirements are. Like, what kind of grades do I need? How
Yeah,
do I need to perform on the MCAT? It's the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
100%. And it's like, nowadays, you guys know so many things have changed, in the last 20 years. We all have been there, 20 years ago, where they're awarding one pro card winner per show per year. We all knew those pro cards by flipping in the magazines. Like
Yep.
I was on Muscular Development Forum watching Sean Ray comment, and I'd be refresh, refresh, refresh. Oh my gosh, who's the newest pro? Eric Fankhauser, you know? You guys
Oh, I
remember,
remember
you,
that.
you guys
Yeah.
remember him?
Abs.
And
Yep.
it's just like, man, this is the guy I got to chase now.
Yeah.
Now it's like you see the cards, and it's like, I want that. And they see the IG, they see the Lambo, they see the Ferrari, and they're like, I want that. But then, like Peter says, there's no research on how to get it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like it
And
doesn't
and
work
and
like
there's
that.
no focus on what are the steps to get there. It's just the end result. It's just that's all they see is the end result. And this is a good segue into maybe the next topic I wanted to talk about, and that's when you're working with clients, understanding what their motivation is. And if you get a client that's doing this and you can just tell that they don't like it, like they're miserable, they're not having a good time, they don't like to train, they don't like to diet, and they're paying you every month, and it's like they're doing all these things, but you just see like this person doesn't enjoy this. What do you guys do in those situations? Do you step in and have a heart to heart with them? Do you inquire about how they're feeling or why they're doing what they're doing?
You go, Eric.
Uh, I'm s- I definitely step in because I ask a lot of life related things.
Yeah.
So I know, when, hey, I'm not going to be able to do my check-ins at my normal time because my kid's got, a football tournament. And so my check-in's going to be a day late. We have that kind of level of communication with all of my people. So even though we have a normal check-in day, I still talk to pretty much all of them at least 2 to 3 times a week randomly, just to show them that, hey, I'm still here and I want to make sure that you're thriving. So I will always know in real time when something hits the fan. So if I see like, hey, these pictures, they're not awesome. Like this guy's pretty bloated. His face looks pretty somber. Something's going on. I
Yeah.
can just send him a message, be like, hey, talk to me. What's really going on? Like I saw in your check-in pictures, you said your sleep was a little bit wonky, but why? And if it's something that you're like, hey, my boss got fired and now I'm taking on double the amount of work, but I'm not getting double the pay. Like, this is some bull. Okay, that's a life related thing. We'll get past it. That's a speed bump of life. No big deal. But then you get a couple people and they're just burnt out. Not to say that they don't love it, but then you have to have that hard conversation with them. Like, look, man, like you're not doing either one of us any any favors. Take a break. Go fall in love with it again. If you need to
Mhm.
just, go eat, kind of whatever, go on vacation, go turn your brain off for a little bit. Just be human and get rid of some of this structure. It'll be much more enjoyable when you come back. You're just getting a little bit burnt out. Not to say we're done, pump the brakes, take a break.
Mhm.
So to answer the question, I definitely step in because I see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way, exact same way, Eric. Like I like to have, I make sure my clients know the boundaries. Like yourself, I'm talking to all my clients at least a few times a week. You know, uh, none of us three or four, are where it's just like some of the coaches that we know where they're going to talk to their client one time a week and you're going to get a two-word reply back via email. That's it. Like we're not those coaches. Like we obviously care and we're all in, so it's like I'm going to reach out, but then when a client, I just had this the other day, a client told me like I knew something was wrong, they missed the check-in again, and I'll dive into a certain point, but then when they tell me, this is where I'm at, I kind of give that discretion like, hey, I'm not going to pry. That's your business.
Mhm.
If you want to tell me, I'm here for you. But I don't need to know every detail of a breakup or a divorce or, you got fired or whatever it may be. But I'm here, because I care. If you want to talk about it, let's figure it out.
Yeah. I think that's a very fine line to manage is you want to remember that you're coaching human beings and not just machines. So you do have to kind of inquire and know about how this is impacting their life, the decisions you're making at each check-in, how's it impacting them mentally and in their day-to-day. Um, but at the same time, you have to draw a line with some people in that, I'm not a therapist. Maybe you need to talk to a professional, or
Mhm.
maybe you need to sit out for a couple competitions here and focus on your life and getting to a better place. So it's a fine line that I think we always walk.
I think sometimes also little kind of tips or tricks we do if someone is seemingly burnt out or just kind of
Hmm.
falling out of love with what they're doing. Changing up a workout plan has done wonders for lots of people. You write them a new program and suddenly they're motivated again in the gym versus just kind of going along with the movements. Um, I like to, and I think Chris and I try to provide a good example of like we throw vacations into our life
Yeah.
and we're not perfect on those vacations. And I'm upfront with, my clients on that and, have some fun, but maybe let's not eat the whole farm when we're on vacation, but be a
Yeah.
normal human being for a bit, release some structure for a bit and then come back at it refreshed.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just doing a client check-in before I hopped on here and I'm reading through and he's been pushing himself hard and he sticks to the diet and training and we still have a lot of work to do. But he made mention, I'm stressed and my parents are coming in town from overseas and I think he sees them once a year. I'm like, you know what? That week they're in town, I don't want you training. Take off, enjoy your parents coming all the way across seas, have some meals out. Like I think it's important to recognize
Absolutely.
sometimes you take a step away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like we're always, she has a sheet that she uses around like Thanksgiving and Christmas
Mhm.
and we always tell people like go eat with your family.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to lose progress over this one meal.
Hmm.
Now obviously it's a little different if it's like, a 3 or 4 day binge where your family's in town and like you're prepping for a show
Yeah,
it's
that's
a little
different.
bit different. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're always telling people like just go eat with your family. Hey, it's one week where if Thanksgiving doesn't fall on Saturday, so what? You
It
have
never
two
will.
you have cheat meal, two cheat meals for that week. Like it's not going to set you back.
Can you think of a Thanksgiving that did fall on a Saturday, Chris?
I can't think of one now that now that I think about it.
Uh, so we talked a little
Little
on
little
green flag.
details.
Yeah. On green flags. Are there any, I mean, they don't necessarily have to be like true red flags, but like anything that comes to mind when someone's contacting you about coaching and you're like, oh man, this this is gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the pricing thing. We talked about people that
Yeah.
kind of kick the tires and want to feel you out in prolonged things. Another one to me, and we kind of alluded to it earlier, is do they have a realistic goal? Or are they just coming to me, they got a gym membership last week and now they want to look like Chris Bumstead and get an IFBB Pro card. Um, so I think the types of questions that they ask, if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I've always wanted to do a competition. I understand I'm new to this, and I really want to just learn how to train and diet and work with you. Let's go. Let's sign up. I can work with this." If they come to me and say, "Hey, I want a pro card within a year, I want to do nationals next year and win a pro card," I can't promise that. And if I did, I'd be a bad coach and a liar because we can't control it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I guess kind of to spin off of that, Peter, um, this one I guess is sort of a two-parter, but like when you guys have, maybe you just signed on this client and it's, like literally on IG or Facebook, the hashtag Road to Pro, the next pro, IFBB Pro. We've all seen it, right? But
Yeah, and I
the
just
number,
cringe. It's just like I never dared do that coming up. It just was like you just didn't do it. You
never.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, I have never posted that. I've never posted anything even close.
yeah.
Probably my biggest red flag, and we'll see if you guys get this too, is those clients or potential clients where they tell you, listen, Peter, listen, Eric, this is what I'm going to do. And yes, it does include the pro card, but when they tell you, like, I'm going to win this show in 16 weeks, I'm going to do this, you're going to see, I'm going to be so diligent. And it's like, I agree with the term fake it till you make it in a lot of fields. But for some reason, for this one, the people that tell me what they're going to do, male and female, they always quit. They just quit. And to flip it too, the quiet ones, like you said, Peter, that have the whole thing detailed, so detailed with their life because they want you to know everything about their day, which is so helpful. Those are the most dangerous hard workers in the room. Like
Mhm.
those are the people where, they just progress at a crazy level.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Chris is saying, when you hear the comment, I'm willing to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Until it means eating like 400 grams of rice in a week. Then I'll do anything but that. What's something else I can eat? You know?
I got such a good one, but I want Eric to chime in first.
I think I've got two big red flags, and at least they're the two that I consistently see. Coach hoppers.
Hmm.
Oh, well, I signed with this coach and he it was his fault that I looked bad on stage. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. I get that all the time. And I won't I so my team is an invite only. I interview everyone. And if your morals and your goals don't line up with the rest of the team, I can't afford to have you on. If you're going to be negative Nancy all the time, oh, this person is this person's that, like there's no need for that. We don't need that kind of negativity. So take it somewhere else. But I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I competed, I got fourth at nationals or whatever, and I just feel like I need a change of scenery. Okay, sure, that's fine. And then I say, what did you do? What did you do to get there? And then they give me their gigantic laundry list of everything. Okay, okay, great. We're going to reduce that by quite a bit. Oh no, you can't take my drugs away. Like I can. And if you want to be part of the team and do this long term and be healthy, you're going to have to.
mhm,
You can't do these, oh my God, the one I should screenshot it and post it. The one that someone just sent me the other day from a coach, This guy wanted him to take 150 milligrams of Anadrol a day for 6 weeks. No, I'm sorry, it was for 12 weeks. And
No,
that was the first phase of the prep. And
unbelievable.
uh, and I tried to explain it. I was like, look at the rest of it. I was like, it just got worse.
You're not going
I
to
was
make it to the
trying to,
next phase.
yeah, and I was trying to explain why this is not an appropriate thing to do. And he goes, "No, I'm going to trust the coach." Well, okay. Well, fast forward. Not only did that guy not look good on stage, surprise, he got really, really bad gyno.
Man, that's no good. Yeah, we've all seen those.
Mhm.
Now, do you
Yeah.
guys ever talk to other coaches? So I have kind of a scenario that I've come across where someone reaches out to you and you know who this person is and you know that they've been with X coach for the last 2 years. You're like, well, hold on, I know this coach, I know this client. Do you ever reach out to that coach and say, hey, what's the story with this guy? What terms are you on? Are you still working with them? Do you think that that's a fair thing to do, or just you don't ask, don't tell, and take on new clients?
For me, I started this thing years ago. Is that every show I went to, I would send every coach that I knew that was going to be there an invite to a dinner and say, look, this place is big enough for all of us. There should be no animosity between any of us. We all want the best for our people, so we should all work together as needed. And thankfully, that has really grown. And so now a lot of these coaches, especially the ones out here on the West Coast, they all have my cell phone information. And so we'll spitball ideas about, potential athletes, with each other. Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? Maybe I'm too close to this. I need an outside set of eyes. So when those kind of situations arise, I will, like, if I know, like, oh, hey, I saw that guy with that coach at the last show, and I'll be like, hey, I just want to let you know, so and so reached out to me. Um, One, are you aware? And then two, is there anything that I should be on the lookout for?
Exactly. Is there anything I should know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and because sometimes, like, my blood work, uh, I'm very, very anal about blood work. I want blood work before prep. I need blood work about 3 to 4 weeks after prep. And then depending on that particular individual, I might ask for blood work in the middle of prep too, especially in the off season and whatnot. And sometimes they're like, oh, my last coach didn't know what he was talking about. And then they'll send me like, hey, ask him about his blood work. And you're looking at it and you're like, this guy's 2 steps away from having a stroke. You're not in any shape to do any kind of contest prep. So I like to work with the other coaches. And I would want someone to do the same thing for me. That's how I always
Mhm.
look at it. Like, if one of my people decided that, hey, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna call Chris. Chris is my guy. I don't have any animosity towards that. You got to find a coach that you vibe with. I'm
Yeah.
fully on board with that. If he was like, hey, I just want to let you know, Susie hit me up. She wants to do a prep, blah, blah, blah. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is the end of our friendship, Chris. We're not having dinner anymore.
Have you ever recommended a client to another coach? Say you have a client, you're like, you know what? I really think this client would work better with Chris or whoever it may be, and you send them that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I see that go both directions too. I love building freaks, and I don't really enjoy coaching bikini girls. I will. There's not a challenge for me. So if I see someone who's like, I really just want to eat like, maybe 900 calories, maybe they do like a little bit of clean and some T3. I don't want that. That's not enjoyable for me as a coach. So then I will give them the contact information for someone who does enjoy doing that kind of coaching, and they'll thrive with them. They
Hmm.
they need to be with someone that's their passion too. You know, Eating 3 ounces of chicken with some salad and taking a little bit of clen and doing 2 hours of cardio a day, that's not entertaining for me. I don't want those check-ins.
That's fair.
Now,
Yeah,
my wife does bikini, and she'll lay into me if I don't step up for her. I'll say not all bikini competitors do that. A lot of them eat a lot, train hard, train heavy, and
And I and I ha
so
and I have
yeah,
some of those. And,
yeah,
and so the ones that want to put in,
work.
work,
Yep.
by all means,
Hmm.
there I love building freaks, and freaks
Yep.
come in all shapes and sizes. And if you're willing to, go to the depths of emotional hell in the gym, I'm a fan. You're on
Mhm.
the team. So if you're willing to put in work and you're willing to eat some steak, we're gonna have a great time.
This is probably another big one for me. I know you guys get this probably all the time. And this is a little bit different than onboarding because, by this point the client has signed up and it could be a lifestyle or a competitor at some point. And at some point the questions start rolling in. Usually it's near the end of a contest prep, let's say 4 to 6 weeks out, but not always. It could be a lifestyle too. But usually within that 4 to 6 weeks out, hey, Peter. So I saw this thing on Instagram. It's this like 0 calorie sauce. I don't know. It has like 7 grams of fat per serving and it's got, I don't know, like 30 different ingredients and they send you the label. And Peter says, Chris, you can't do it. There's no way. There's too much garbage in there. And then you get another email with two or three more different things. Yeah, what about this? What about this drink? What about this sauce? Can I do this? Is it okay if I have this keto bread? And it's like, all right, at this point you can tell right away that it's more about like the taste and it's not about actually like winning the show. And that to me just irks me, but because it's like you guys know we eat for performance, right?
Mhm.
We're eating for performance, and it's like at that point if you're more worried about the cheat meal or your different flavors, that you're gonna finish in 3 bites, like
Yeah.
this is probably not for you.
Yeah, my stance on this is it's not the 0 calorie sauce that one time that I'm worried about. To me, it's that thought process that can be an absolute poison. Because what it tells me is this person's already looking for the easier way to do things.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
if they're doing it with sauces, they're doing it with their training and they're doing it with their cardio. And I put dumbbell walking lunges on their plan, and maybe that day doing, something else was easier. Like they're already starting to look for what can I get away with, what will be a little bit easier.
Mhm.
Yes.
So to me, it's not the, G Hughes sauce that's gonna make or break or lose the show for them. It's that they don't understand that this is going to be a hard thing and you got to do hard things to win.
Hmm.
And they're already looking for the easy way.
Mhm.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, spot on. When I bring on people from the moment that we start, I always tell them, as far as sauces go, as long as it's not dairy related, early on in whatever we're doing, whether it be off season, contest prep, early on, I don't care. Hot sauces, fresh salsa, marinades, I don't care. Make the food enjoyable. But just know that the further we get into it,
Mhm.
the more restrictions there's going to be. So make the food enjoyable, but during that process, start learning how to enjoy less of it. Because I don't want to get to 6 weeks out and say, okay, hey, we're bloated. You look like a cow. We got to start pulling some of the sodium down. And they're like, oh my God, I can't fathom now. My life is ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having that expectation of going in seems to be fine. But I ask some of the people that I can tell that are like, oh, I don't really know, especially first time people. I've been asking this question for people that want to come work with me, for athletes that want to deal with me, anything like that, because it's not what they answer, it's how they answer. So I will ask two questions to anyone that I'm a little bit hesitant on. You guys are more than welcome to take this. I'm going to ask you, if I gave you $1 million right now, what would you do with it? And if I get any response that's not an entrepreneurial mindset of like, okay, I have $1 million, how do I turn it into $2 million? If I get something that's like, you gave me $1 million, I'm gonna go live on an island with a bunch of models and have a boat and life's gonna be dope. That shows me that you're about instant gratification and that you're not in it for the long haul. And so I'll ask another follow-up question of cake or pie. It doesn't matter whether it's cake or pie, it's how you answer it. Because if you just blurt out an answer and then you're like, wait, no, hang on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That means your mouth is moving faster than your brain. And that's not the end of the world, but that's showing me that that's something that I need to pay attention to, that you act on impulse and not logic. So once I have that little bit of information, I'll have a better understanding of how to deal with you as I start pulling some of these things back and be like, hey, just let you know, those Larry marinades, they're gone now. And if I can see you're like, well, this is some bull, and that you start going that way, I'll know why. So I like to look at things from an emotional standpoint so I can kind of have a grasp on things before they get too crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love how that, taps into the mindset too, where it tells you a lot about someone in that particular scenario.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the instant gratification is a pretty normal thing now, that people want, and there's not a lot of people who are willing to delay gratification.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has come with the different process now that we have of obtaining a pro card,
Yeah.
because you used to have
Oh, yeah.
the regional show, then you had a national level show, then you had the pro qualifier, and there was 4 pro cards for an entire year. And not to take anything away from the great athletes, because we have amazing athletes, and these shows are very big now, especially, look at the universe. What's it? It's
Oh,
140 pro cards a year now.
yeah.
That's crazy, but that's how many people show up too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
And I want to play devil's advocate because I know that there's a lot more pro cards handed out now, and maybe it is a little bit easier in some of the divisions than it was 15, 20 years ago. But I think it can be misinterpreted. It might seem for that person that's starting out in bikini or men's physique or classic physique that everyone's turning pro and everyone's getting a pro card that you're following on Instagram. And you don't truly get a concept of, hey, the 35 other people in that class didn't get one.
Yeah,
And they went the next year and they didn't get one. And they went the next year and they didn't get one. I don't think people see that. All they see is everyone on Instagram's posting that they turned pro and it's easy thing to do and I can do it in a year or two. You don't really hear the stories of all the people that did 10, 20 years in the NPC and never turned pro.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
you don't hear those people typically on podcasts and on Instagram talking about how they didn't reach their goal, you know?
I agree.
Yeah,
That
if
partially
people want to go
due to
ahead.
social media.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just beautiful things out there.
Yeah. So that's all people see.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, well, why not me? You know, the 3 girls I follow on Instagram turned pro in bikini this year.
Hmm.
And it's like,
Yeah.
well, what about the other 1,000 that didn't and tried for 5 years and then stopped?
Yeah, and this is this life is not for the faint of heart.
No.
You have to fall in love with the process, the good and the bad. You got
Mhm.
to know that, okay, the worse I feel, the better I'm going to look.
Hmm.
And that is a really weird thing to tell someone who's never done this before. That, hey, you're not going to want to talk to people. You're not going to want to get out of pajamas. But that's part of the deal. You're going to feel pretty poopy. But good news, you're going to look awesome. And
Hmm.
I mean, how many times did you attempt to get your pro card? I mean, that took a fair share.
Chris
Six.
was like, what, 40?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
It was 31 shows and 16 pro qualifiers.
Yeah.
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 And we talk about this all the time where, like going off of what Peter said, like I don't expect everything to know about, every client to know about my story, all the surgeries or, Stephanie's story and, how it was this crazy run of 4 shows in 2018. But it's like you kind of have to know your audience a little bit where it's like you're coming to me or Stephanie and it's like you want to turn pro, your first pro qualifier, and it's like when I had made it and I was in the first call out of 4 guys in 2015 at the North Americans, there were 50 guys in my class. David Bay quoted word for word, "This is the most competitive light heavy class I have ever seen, ever." 50 guys. So it's like, that level of competition, and yeah, who knew I would have gotten it, 8 years later, and it's like, it took me 16 times to get it, but you want to
Yep.
get it in one try?
Yeah.
Like, really?
See, and for me, I thought getting my pro card within, I think it was 3 years. I thought I was like fast track.
Yeah.
And now nobody wants to wait 3 years even.
Well, 2 years is so short in your career,
Like in
like,
3 years, I was like, I hit the ground running. I was 31 and a half when I started my first prep, and I wanted to turn pro before I was 35.
Yeah.
So like I made
And
that goal and I just like dove.
and then it's like I don't think they understand like why do you want it? So you can tell people because after the first month, no one's gonna care.
Oh yeah.
And now every show you do in the pro ranks, you're gonna get smoked.
Yeah.
Like realistically, most people, you're not going to step into a pro show and be competitive at anytime soon.
yeah.
Um, so, I mean, have fun. You pay your $300 or whatever it is now to have your pro card sent to you in the mail, and you go do a pro show, and
Oh,
guess
they
what?
don't
It's
even send
not,
it to you anymore,
yeah,
Peter. You have
yeah,
to
now
pay
it's
an extra
digital.
$50 to actually get a little
Yeah.
card.
Um, and I turned pro as a welterweight. And for me, it was bittersweet. It was both the greatest I've ever felt in my life and the biggest accomplishment. Um, but it was also recognizing and being realistic of, hey, this might be the last show I ever win. Because
Mhm.
now I'm going up against 212 guys and I'm going to be in my 30s and I'm not 212, you know? And I'm looking around backstage at USA's. And I'm seeing guys like Austin Conley and Justin Shire and these guys that did that show and didn't win a pro card. And I'm thinking Justin Shire's a better bodybuilder than me. And I'm sitting here with my pro card, kind of like with imposter syndrome, you know? Like, what am I going to do with this thing? This feels amazing. I'm so proud of myself. Took me 20 years to get it, but this next level, I mean, this is what I wished for. So I don't think people understand what are you going to do with that pro card when you win it? Yeah.
And there's, nowadays with a lot of pro cards and then the fluff of social media, there's a really, really, really big issue with people's evaluation of their self-value.
Mhm.
It used to be, you got a pro card, you got a contract with metrics, something, you did a couple photo shoots for a big magazine, and you got a monthly column, and then you were making a pretty good living. I've got a buddy, and I've tried to explain this to a lot of guys. I own a supplement company. I understand the business side of it, and I understand where you're coming from an athlete's point of view. But if you do not possess value other than the fact that you look good
Yep.
naked, what are you doing for the company? Why should that company invest in you? What are you bringing to the table? You got a pro card. Congratulations. You're a great athlete. There's no doubt about it. But where is the value?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's a great
that's a
point.
that's a big thing that people are
You-
missing.
yeah, you can't just bodybuild anymore. It's not the magazine era
Yeah.
where you got a contract after you won USA's and you could live off that for a few years. But yeah, it's a different era. And you got 18-year-olds that are great with videography that are taking your lunch.
Kind of going off
It's
on that topic. The other thing too, and I know you guys see it. This one just kills me. Like, it just hits so deep, especially too, talking about her pro card run and mine and yours, Peter, where it's a huge red flag when you explain, all right, so this is our pro qualifier, or you hit the regional show, you have to qualify, and then now we're talking about the pro qualifier. And I love, the mindset no plan B. I just think in a, subjective sport, my favorite sport of all time is sprinting. So the first person that crosses the line is the winner. There's no question about it, right? It's a little different in bodybuilding, you guys know.
Yeah.
It's a little different. So even though we're shooting for the stars, we're assuming that we're going to win that pro card. If we don't, and our next pro qualifier is 3 weeks away, and that client is like, oh, man, I don't know. Like I got trips, late summer. I don't know if I can hang on for 3 more weeks. And it's like, that tells me again, all I need to know.
Yep.
That tells me right where your head's at. And it's like, when she was prepping, when you were prepping, Peter, when I was prepping, I would have dieted for 5 years straight for this thing. I wouldn't care what it took,
Yeah.
which is why it took 22 years. I
And,
mean,
and
you,
yeah.
like there is nothing I wouldn't have done to win.
And it's funny you mentioned that because that's the exact scenario I was in 2020. I did nationals. I took fourth. USA's, it was that COVID year, I think was 3 weeks later. And I was in great shape at nationals. I looked good.
Yeah.
Uh, apples and oranges, they went with other guys. And I remember I hadn't even talked to my coach about doing USA's yet, but I was already back in the gym. I remember I flew from Orlando back to Chicago. Next day I was working out, looking at myself. I'm like, I feel good. Um, and that Saturday, or no, that Monday after the show, I checked in with him. And I remember I took my photos. I sent it to him. I'm like, I want to do USA's. And I'm emailing him in the stairwell of my building, already doing my stairs.
Yeah.
I was like, I have an hour of stairs. I'm doing USA's. And I'm sitting there emailing him with the plan, and I'm already doing the cardio I know that I'm going to have to do.
Yeah. I
And I
love
was
it.
like, I can do another 3 weeks of this. I was like, I want it. Um, yeah.
I love that. It's just, yeah, it just goes right back to the mindset. It's just like, we see all the pro cards, we see the success, and it's like in anything, to be successful in anything, it's not going to be easy because if it were,
Yeah.
everyone would be successful. Everyone would be a millionaire. Everyone would be a pro golfer. You know what I mean? Like there are going to be points where, yes, it may be easier for others genetically, but there's never a point where you reach that level of success and it's going to be easy.
hmm Now, one thing I do want to pick your guys' brains about, because I feel it's one of the most challenging things with coaching, um, is knowing when to push clients and when to take feedback that they are breaking down, tired, run into the ground. I feel that especially over email, that's such a hard thing to judge. You're looking at the diet, they're doing an hour of stairs too, and they're like, I'm dragging, I'm weak, I'm suffering, I can't get out of bed, I can't. And you're just like, is this person just not tough? Or are they truly at a point where maybe I need to give them a couple days and pull back a little bit? And you don't know. With myself, I know where that breaking point is, and it's pretty far. But when you're working with someone else, you don't know if what they're telling you is just, hey, this person's a little soft. It's just general fatigue. You're in prep, you're going to be hungry.
Mhm.
So, how do you guys find that?
Eric, you go.
It's always hard to find that in the beginning. Thankfully, you're blessed to have people that have done multiple shows with you, so you kind of have an understanding of, okay, this is how hard we pushed last time.
Yeah.
I have a good idea of where your breaking point is. And new people, it's tricky, especially when your communication is just in the form of text, whether it be, a text message, an email, whatever it may be. You can't read tone through that. So
hmm
you're trying to dissect it the best you can without breaking that personal boundary of, how much is too much of me getting involved in your personal business. And then it's like, is there something else going on? Because when you see that, they're like, oh my God, like I can't function. My limbs feel so heavy.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it and you're like, well, you're not dying. We don't have your food that far down. You know, you should be fine. And then you start it. And then I don't know if you guys get this, but then I start second guessing myself. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this person's telling me that they're dying. What am I doing wrong? And then
Hmm.
you got to go through all your notes. And especially if they've been with you a long time, now you got years of notes to go through from old preps. And you're like, nope, nope. She complained about the same crap this time too. Then you're like, nah, that's just a thing. Suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah. It's like, are they just complaining, or are they truly suffering and I need to take note of this and change something?
Yeah.
And
And
then there's the opposite client who is afraid to tell you that they're not recovering and being beat into the ground because they want to impress you or whatever it might be, or that's just not how they were raised. They were raised not to complain, and you don't know that they're as run down as they are. So you just keep pushing them and pushing them.
yeah, and you can see it in
You can
pictures.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can see it in pictures. Like I want you to tell me I shouldn't
Hmm.
have to pry. I
Yeah.
can see that you look like a mess. You're holding water everywhere. I can see that you've got bags under your eyes. You know, what's going on?
Yeah.
Just have that communication. But yeah, it's always tricky with new people because you don't know, like, are they just soft? Are they just
Hmm.
weak? Can they handle this? Are they built for war? And like I've asked a couple of younger guys. This guy I remember, this guy called me from Florida, from nationals. This is like 3 years ago. He just got off stage and got his butt handed to him. And he called me. He was like, I'm literally still backstage. You could hear the announcer still in the background. And he goes, I'll do whatever it takes. And I said, I'm going to ask you a very serious question. Is this something that you're willing to die for? And without missing a beat, he was like, 1,000%. And I was like, perfect. I need you to go eat food and don't talk to me for a week. I need you to reset
Yeah.
because you're too emotionally invested in the wrong way, and that revenge mindset will be the death of you.
Yeah. Do not die for this sport,
Yeah.
please. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, the bags under their eyes. That's a pet peeve of mine is if someone's checking in, do not cover your face. Don't put some silly emoji over your face. Don't cover it. I want to see from your face to your feet because the face tells a lot.
Hmm.
I mean, just if they're like smiling, do they look miserable? Are their eyes sunken in? Do they have bags under their eyes? What do they look like? You can tell a lot from that, I feel. So I never accept check-ins where they put something over their face.
That's a great point, man.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never even seen that. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, people will do that. They'll
The
put like the
occasional.
like smiley emoji over their face. I'm like, what is this? No, you're not going to do this on stage. I want your check-ins to simulate you being on stage. How are you going to pose on stage? Look presentable, smile, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually will get on a phone call and just kind of like assess the situation.
Mhm.
Because, like you guys were saying, it is really difficult, especially if it's a newer person. If it's someone that's been with you a year, several years, that's a little bit more easy to navigate.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you can see the signs
Yeah.
before it's really happening. But if
Yeah.
it's like day two of no carbs and they think that they're dying at the gym and they have zero strength all of a sudden, I'm like, but your glycogen isn't even all gone yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have probably too many stories to remember, but it's just like, when you guys are talking about it, I'm thinking of all these stories, and it's in these particular stories, it all came down to just a weak mindset. There's just no way around it,
Yeah.
but it's like,
Or
oh, I
or
can't,
an
I,
uneducated mindset maybe too.
Mhm.
yeah. Kind of going back to where, we were talking about it, it is going to be difficult. Like you are going to feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like you are in a huge caloric deficit. You are pushing your body to the extreme, and you're trying to beat how many other people for that pro card. Like this is not an easy task,
Yeah.
you know.
And and I find it funny that like, typically with a lot of the level of clients that we work with, they're typically one or the other. They're typically insanely genetically gifted, but just lack everything else. Like just they're not tough, they don't have discipline, they don't want to work hard, or they truly like love this and want to grind it out and they will stick to the plan, but they just They don't have the genetics, and you want to, but when you can find both of those things in one person, a Phil Heath, a Derek Lunsford,
Mhm.
the sky's the limit.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I have this client, he's still with me. Shout out Corey. I think we're almost to our fifth year. But a couple years ago, we're doing this prep, and we've gotten shredded every prep, and he was just so locked in at this point where his cardio was very high already, and he was doing extra like on the check-in day, assuming that I was going to raise it again. But he was always up front with me, so he would tell me. So it's not like he was doing this his own plan. He was always making me aware of it, like on that check-in day
Yeah.
until finally we hit that point where I'm like, listen, brother, like we don't need to go above this point. Like you are absolutely peeled inside out.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was just like, what else you got for me? Like, what else?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, we're good. Like, you're there, you know?
Vic is like that. I know with her check-ins, she checks in really early on Thursday, but she wants that thing immediately because she's like, I don't want to overeat today. If she makes a change today, I want to be ready. And I remember like sometimes, say her cardio's at 40 minutes and she checks in that Thursday and she's done her 40 minutes and they bump it. She's like, do I need to go back and like do another 30? Like she wants it to start yesterday, you
Yeah,
know?
I love that. That's so cool.
Brian does stuff like that, and I've said this for years. From the moment I met Brian, I've never met anyone who can outwork Brian. And I remember
See that.
he sends
Mhm.
me these check-ins. I'm like, man, like what our weights are the weight when you wake up and the weight that you go to bed, they're huge differences, like way more than it should have been. Like, what are we doing here? Like some of these are like 11-pound drops.
Oh man.
And he was like, I'm doing what you told me to do. And I'm like, break it down because I have, out of every athlete I have three people that I give macros to. Everyone else gets a designated meal plan. And Brian's a super freak. So, but Brian understands the structure that I want. So I give him that leeway to kind of fit around his day-to-day life. He tells me, I did my fastest cardio. I went to the gym, did this, and I did my other cardio. And I was like, nah, something's not right. Like, walk me through your workouts because he does his own workouts. I give him workouts and he's like, yeah, I got it. I'm a professional. Like, all right. So he tells me, he's like, I did my leg day. And I'm like, all right, walk me through it. And he's like, and then I did an hour of weighted walking lunges.
Oh,
I'm like, so you did your 40 minutes fast cardio, you went to the gym, you did your leg day, followed by an hour of weighted parking lot lunges.
Just hit cardio for an hour.
Yeah. And I was like, well, how, like you said, weighted, walking lunges. He's like, yeah, Ronnie Coleman style, like a plate on each side for an hour. And I'm like, that's cardio, bro. You don't have to do any more. And he was like, you can always be more shredded. It's like, okay, Brian.
Shout out, Brian.
Right.
I love that story. Oh.
Yeah,
That's
but then you end up with other people. Like I've got this kid. I call him a kid. He's just a couple years younger than me. His he is the coolest name. His legal name is Blaze Alpha. Coolest
Wow.
name ever. And he's the nicest guy. He's the biggest genetic freak you've ever met. And so I posted a picture on my story the other day of the last prep that we did the day before the show, just in the hotel for Legion. This is maybe 3 years ago now. And I posted that picture with a side by side of him against Ryan Terry. And I was like, I've said for years, Blaze can be anyone.
I
He's
saw
that much of a freak. He does not care at all. He has no aspirations on pushing bodybuilding. And he's just like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, you're the guy. You have personality. You can be a big star. People like you. You're likable. You've got a killer look. The last show we did, he got off stage and Tyler Mannion literally sprinted from the judges table, came out back and told him, dude, your build is crazy. And then he went back. And I'm like, you don't understand. the kind of compliment that you just got, and he was like, the judge came by and said I look good.
The
No, that's the guy.
guy.
Yeah.
It's
But he
funny
just
you mentioned that because I've always kind of had this hypothesis, and I've seen it with a lot. Sometimes I think those people that are so genetically gifted and the results come very easily. They do 50%, they win their first show, they turn pro. I think because they don't have to go through those trials and tribulations and effort and sacrifice, it just doesn't mean the same thing to them.
Mhm.
So it's a lot easier for them to walk away or not be as invested or not care as much. Whereas to someone like Chris, I, Stephanie, it took us so long and such a process to go through this. And we love it because of that, because it transformed us. It was difficult. We got through it. But I see a lot that they just don't have that same attachment to him because it always came easy. Would you guys agree with that when it comes to some of those genetic freaks?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And especially that guy that I just mentioned, he was a Marine, then he was a competitive power lifter.
Yeah.
And so those were real struggles. Your real
Hmm.
struggle, you serve as active duty military. It's a real struggle to suffer down, to make weight and still be strong. And then you make that transition into bodybuilding and you're like, I just got to stand there and be pretty.
Yeah.
I can
It's
do
like almost
that.
boring. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll ask him, be like, hey, it's been a couple years since you've been on stage, time for a comeback. And he's like, no, not really. Like, okay, just go be awesome, hanging out.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of tough, I think, because like you see the vision for them, you see what they're
Yeah.
capable of. But even if it were easy, like you guys were talking about, with Phil and everything, it's like when someone realizes they're that good and they know that yes, it comes a little easier, but then when they're like, I don't want to be good, I want to be the best.
Exactly. It
I want to
comes
be,
easier to them. So their
yeah,
brain says, okay, then I can turn this up even more.
yeah,
Not just I can coast at this level. It's when
yeah,
they can do that that you got all-time greats.
100%. Yeah, it's like, and yes, it is tough. You guys know, like
Yeah.
finally now the winners are starting to get some real money,
Yeah.
half a
And
million for the Arnold, 600,000 for the Olympia,
yeah.
but
It-
even then it's chump change compared to like real sports, right?
yeah. And
But
I know like for Phil, because I always, I listen to everything that he said for years.
mhm,
Um, Turning pro for him was a cakewalk. Winning his first show was a cakewalk. I think in his mind, what drove him was that wasn't his goal. I always remember him hearing him say, I want 10 Mr. Olympias.
yeah,
And if you want 10 Mr. Olympias, then you better try and train harder than Kai Green, and you better hit your meals, and you better, get the best coach in the business. So I think he recognized what he had, and he's
Mhm.
like, you know what? I'm gifted, so I'm gonna just set this goal that no one's ever hit before. And that's what I'm gonna go after. And
yeah,
that's what drove him.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah. He wanted the legacy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Man, this
man,
was this was good.
this is good. And I was sitting there thinking about that mindset for establishing that almost untainable goal.
Yeah.
Uh, it made me think about some stuff that I do with my people. So I do I do some business related coaching as well, and I try and the people that want to learn, you can always tell the people that are like, I need more. I need to be the absolute best version of myself that I can be. Then that's a different kind of coaching that I'll provide too. But I've been doing this thing for years and I started giving it to everybody because it became such a useful learning tool. Is I call it rainbow goals. A rainbow goal is you can see the end of the rainbow before you've even started it. So when I pick up a new athlete, I give them three. I want you to give me a short term one, something that you can achieve in 2 to 3 days. The second one's a little bit farther. Maybe it's a month or 2 months. And then the third one is a long term goal. So every time you achieve one of these rainbow goals, you reward yourself with something that you want, not something that you need. And it works for business. I've grossed X amount of money. I'm going to buy myself a silly watch, expensive shoes, whatever it may be, And then I push that next rainbow a little bit farther. That way, one, it helps with client retention as well because, okay, great. You saw that we worked together great and we achieved all these things. Let's keep achieving more things. It's one of the things for good client retention, but it gives you that mindset of anything is possible if you're willing to do the work. And so, like, it's everything. It's fitness, it's business, it's learning. So I always ask my people, I would like you to learn another language. It'll give you something to do during your cardio, and it's a distraction from, oh, I gotta go cook chicken. Like, okay, cool. Tell me what it is in whatever language you're learning. Teach me now. And so it makes them like, oh, I'm doing a lot. It's not just I walked on my walking pad in the morning and I barbecued and I waited for the kids to get home. Like you're being productive. You're doing more. You're adding more value to yourself.
Mhm.
So having that mindset of like, I'm going to do these little things. Oh, I can achieve that. You know what? That big goal that I set, I'm going to get that too.
Yeah. That reminds me a lot of Ross Flanagan. Do you know who that is?
Oh yeah. That's funny. I talked to him the other day. He's a good people.
He's someone that I know every time he sets out for a prep, he also sets business goals. So I think like every single company and business venture that he's launched has been like in the middle of a prep. He just that's how he operates and he's gotten a lot done. So I think that's a cool point is, even though you're in prep and it's time consuming, what are other goals you can set in that time frame? And it kind of becomes it feeds off of each other. You just become very productive and the achievement kind of just breeds more achievement.
Mhm.
So like with people that do investments, they understand this pretty good is when you work in percentages, you'll become that much more successful. So if you figure it's 24 hours in a day, well, how many of those hours are you really in the gym?
Right.
Not that much. So you break it down to percentage, what are you doing? Maybe 4% of that time. And then what? What are you doing that's also productive during that time frame? If you tell me like, oh, I'm so busy, bro, I'm so busy. I work 20 hours a day. That doesn't impress me. That shows me that you are not efficient. Show me that you're efficient. Hey, I'll tell you what, I did my entire week's worth of stuff in 3 hours. That's cool. Great. You achieved that. Go do something else productive too. I don't want you to be busy. And I tell the kid the same thing too. Like, I don't need you to be busy. I need you to be productive. What have you done that's creative? What have you done that's productive?
Mhm.
That's the same rule for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so key, man. That's super key. Well, let's wrap up for today. This was definitely outstanding. I mean, I feel
Really
like
good
the
stuff.
viewers are going to learn quite a bit. Uh, Eric, where can the viewers reach out to you for coaching? Obviously, you talked about you got to go through a process, but where can they reach out?
They can go to the website, lorefitness.com. It's lore hyphen fitness. You can find me on all forms of social media, which is Lore Fitness Official. If you see my cool little Atom logo, that's me. If you don't see it, it's not me.
Perfect. Well, I want to wrap up with kind of, I guess, advice. Obviously, you gave a lot of insightful stuff, but let's say someone that's just a flat out beginner and they want to be successful within bodybuilding. What would you say would be your biggest piece of advice?
I,
Or
I will tell you the greatest thing that I ever remember learning from someone else. People don't learn, they memorize. So I want you to learn why we're doing it and what came from that. Meaning that learn your body to understand how you can continue to thrive later. So just keep learning. That's the greatest bit of tool that I can give you is learn and understand it.
Yeah, love it, man. Well, yeah, like I said, this is definitely a great one. We'll definitely have you guys back on again. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment with any questions you guys have for these gentlemen, and we will see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.